Station, WTIM.
Welcome to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville. You always do better with Landmark, and people's making trust. They put people first. I'm here in studio with University of Illinois Extension horticulture educator Andrew Hulsinger. And you know what, Andrew, everyone right now, they're thinking about their turkey, their Thanksgiving dinner. Soon they're going to start thinking about their Christmas trees. And I know you are well versed in taking care of a Christmas tree. So first off, I want to start. Where can I find? I know a lot of people like to divert towards the plastic and the fake trees, but where can I find a real Christmas tree here in central Illinois?
Well, there are a few Christmas tree farms around our area. It's not too difficult to find a live tree or one that's been freshly cut. Oftentimes they're transported maybe on a parking lot sale, or your garden centers will have a selection of Christmas trees. So the main thing is to keep that Christmas tree selection. You want to select the Christmas tree that appears to be the freshest and has good retention of the needles whenever you're searching for that perfect tree.
Where on the tree should I look for needle retention?
We can look, on the outer periphery of the tree, but you can see maybe if it's losing needles, that's a sign that it may have dried out too much, and you just have to be, once you get it into your home, make sure that you have a place set aside that's prepared for your Christmas tree. So think about your heating registers, where they're located, what kind of drafts you might have, and think about how you're going to be watering this tree, because once you bring it in to the house, we don't have very much humidity in the homes, and so it tends to dry out. So we need to provide a reservoir of water and keep that continually filled as you're going throughout the season, so you don't have the hazard of a fire.
I know sometimes the tree will look like it's nice and well taken care of on the front of it on the outside, but then you look kind of underneath and towards the back, towards the base of the tree, and then sometimes the needles will start be kind of browned and stuff. Is that something I've got to worry about with in terms of drying and taking care of a tree and making sure it lasts a long time?
Well, the thing that you need to think about is, whenever it comes to the base of the tree, is making a fresh cut at the bottom of the tree, to where, trees tend to heal the wounds that they have. And so whenever those trees are cut, it starts to seal that wound. And so having a fresh cut allows the transport of the water into the tree more readily, and gets that protective measure of providing hydration to those needles to keep them retained as long as possible.
Now, outside of taking a picture and pouring it into the tree stand, which is a way that works to water a tree, but it's a little bit inconvenient, are there any other ways that I can water my tree?
Well, you can have a container. What I've done in the past is bought an inexpensive siphon pump, and then put a container of water, a jug of water up on elevated, and then activate that pump, and then the water will flow into the reservoir, and then you can stop it and pump as much as you need. You just have to pull out the hose from the water, and then it doesn't have a source to continue the pumping of the water.
My father used to take like a clear plastic tube and kind of wrap it around down towards the actual bottom too. That's another way that I'm thinking off the top of my head. It's going to be a little bit precise with dumping the water in there, but other than that, at least you don't have to bend down.
Right, and you could have a funnel, and have your plastic tubing to transport that water down to where you need it to be. So you don't have to, it can be cumbersome whenever you're around a Christmas tree, especially when you get those ornaments on it. And you might think of putting some natural ornamentation on your Christmas tree. There's a lot of things in the landscape that can be used, decorative features for your Christmas tree.
Maybe some
pine cones.
Right, pine cones. I was thinking mistletoe, perhaps, if you could find any of that. Okay, I like that idea. So outside of just, wanting to keep my tree healthy and looking nice, why else should I keep my tree watered and healthy during this Christmas season? I understand. I mean, it could be if it dries out too much, we could
have a fire.
exactly
Right. So preventing a fire from occurring, and if you've ever seen some videos of safety, it does ignite quite readily, and then is a major problem. So you want to reduce your chances of that happening. So if you have Christmas lights, make sure that they're off whenever it's not attended to. If you have a live tree, to where you reduce some of that risk factor of igniting the tree accidentally.
How often should I water my tree? Is there too much watering that I can do?
Not for the cut tree. Now, if there are some live trees, if you will, where they're a potted tree, and those could be overwatered. So you need to, treat it as a house plant and water it sufficiently, but don't overwater to where you would cause problems.
Anything else I'm missing here in terms of Christmas trees?
I think, selecting the various types, they do have a scent or an aroma that you get whenever you bring in that fresh Christmas tree. And some people may be sensitive to some of those aromas. So you may choose wisely on your tree selection. A white pine, even though we don't think of that necessarily as a traditional Christmas tree, so to speak, they do have a less, odor to them. So you may, be careful in your selection for what your household needs, and be sure to be safe around children and pets whenever you bring, new plants into the realm of your home. Some of the berries that are associated with our Christmas holiday are toxic, and so just investigate your plant selection. Make sure you have good safety in the home around the holiday season.
I can never seem to get my cat out from underneath my Christmas tree, but that's another problem. I'll have to ask maybe an animal behaviorist. Well, anyway, speaking of houseplants and stuff, I know that, all of them should be inside probably by now, except for maybe a couple. I don't know what those would be, but most should be inside by now, and you should be taking care of those. Anything I should remember in terms of keeping good care of those houseplants during these colder months?
Well, they should be inside, and hopefully you haven't brought any pests into your home. But where they're located at is going to be an important aspect. Again, those heat registers, the amount of light that they have. Maybe you need to add a supplemental light into your regime of care for your house plant. Noticed here that you have some hibiscus in your office that have been brought in, and there is a transition period whenever you're bringing in plants during your winter season. So be aware of that, how it may have temperature can affect flowering, amount of light can affect flowering. So especially to be noted in the holiday season, your Christmas poinsettias. So whenever you're bringing, that's why they have a clear plastic sleeve around the plant to help protect it from those cooler temperatures whenever you're traveling. So even if you may put it in a cardboard box for your transport to help insulate it. I know whenever I've dealt with carnivorous plants like a Venus flytrap in the wintertime, I got a styrofoam cooler and helped to protect it as I brought them from classroom to classroom or transported those.
I know patience is a big thing, as you kind of alluded to there, with especially this time. Plants, there's a little bit of a transition period, and they may kind of, at first anyway, have some impacts that you aren't really looking for. So I guess, what would you say to those who just brought their plant in and maybe that plant isn't doing as well as they would like?
Just think about the cultural care and where you have located it in your home. Usually the number one killer of houseplants is probably either overwatering or underwatering. So pay attention to the amount of watering that you're doing. Maybe you're overwatering your plant, and that can be detrimental. Some of the signs of overwatering can mimic those of underwatering. So it is especially something to pay attention whenever it comes to bringing in your plants in. Some plants, would need they go dormant more like the succulents. There's categories of succulent plants that they have a dormancy stage in the wintertime. So you'll reduce the frequency of watering whenever you bring those plants in, and you won't have to water them as much. But others, are going to be in need of water because of our drier conditions in the wintertime in our homes.
You said it too. Some of the symptoms of overwatering can mirror the symptoms of underwatering. So is there a way to distinguish between whether or not I've been overwatering or underwatering a plant?
There is if you overwater, you can just think about the frequency in which you are watering and compare that to the symptoms of the plant. And then what some people may miss is the type of water that you're using. So your tap water may have fluoride, so there's other issues that may be present that you're not thinking about whenever you're watering your plants. Maybe you have a tropical plant that is sensitive to that fluoride or chlorine in the water. So using other sources of water, a distilled water or rainwater, some of that can alleviate some of those symptoms for those sensitive plants. So think about also fertilizing. If your plants need fertilizer, you'll have to add that into your watering regime so that they have the nutrients that they need throughout the winter season.
We'll talk more with University of Illinois horticulture educator Andrew Holsinger after this short time out here on WTIM, your information station.
WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. And People's Bank and Trust, they put people first. You'll find those streams online on the TaylorvilleDailyNews.com Facebook and on YouTube at WTIM TV. You know, the weather's turning a bit colder and people are starting to bring their gardening inside. I have University of Illinois horticulture educator, University of Illinois Extension horticulture educator, Andrew Hulsinger, here to talk about it. Andrew, it's cold out there, but that doesn't mean you have to stop gardening, right?
No, there's a lot of plants that can be grown inside during these winter weather seasons. And so when I think of some of the plants, you know, you have your house plants that are growing, but there's even foliage that can be brought in to deck the halls, if you will. So the holly plant, you may have a holly tree or bush outside. And whenever those temperatures are elevated during the day is a good time, if you have the berries on those plants, to do some cuttings, and you can incorporate that material into your home. Maybe you're making a holiday wreath, and you can incorporate that into the selection of plant material that you use for your Christmas decorations.
Are there any that you can think of that maybe we can start, you know, beyond, once we get beyond the holiday season, that we can maybe start growing inside and then transplant outside into our garden for spring and summer?
Some of your potted bulbs, I know there's another educator that would get gifts of bulbs and, you know, potted plants, and he would transition those out into his landscape. And there are some bonus factors, if you will. This is a great time for propagating plants, and, you know, we have a little downtime. You may want to start some cuttings, and you know, can propagate succulents. It's a good time to just do propagation in general for some of the plants that we may find indoors. And nice maybe to give a gift for the holiday season whenever you're maybe forcing some bulbs here for the holidays. You know, presenting those as a gift is a nice gesture. Even bringing in some holiday cheer with some forcing of flowering plants, some woody plants. Whenever it gets to be the dismal, dreary winter day, it's nice to have some of those incorporated in maybe a flower arrangement, and to be able to see those blooms and think about spring ahead.
It's a good reminder as well. Going back into the holiday plants and whatnot, how can I keep that poinsettia healthy?
Your poinsettia, the main factor there is probably going to be temperature for the health of the plant, making sure that it doesn't get too cool. If you've had a poinsettia in the past, those can be held over after the holiday season and initiated to be reblooming or colored back in the following year. But it does take a lot of care for caring for those plants. I've been in greenhouses that were filled with poinsettias, and there's a lot of work that's gone into the production of those plants, and making sure that since the short day, long day initiation of those plants is a factor, having, you know, control of that lighting environment to trigger those, and just a lot of work from a small plant to the larger plants that we have that we go to purchase.
Andrew, I know you're always educating people on horticulture and gardening and everything. So do you have any programs coming up that you'd like to provide information about?
Well, I do have some programs coming up. I have some holiday wreath workshops around the area, but also we are looking to scheduling our Four Seasons webinar series, and so those I will be giving a session here coming in the early part of the year on indoor plants and house plants. So look forward to presenting to the public on house plants and other topics. And if you have a topic that you may find of interest that you want to hear something about, you can give me an email at aholsing@illinois.edu, and just reach out to me if you have any other questions. I'd be welcome to answer those for you.
Horticulture educator Andrew Hulsinger. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Hey, thanks.